hearing a fairy tale? No one? The little kid, I suppose? Well then, let me owe you with a story of magic. Once upon a time, as all good stories starts, there used to live a miller who had a very beautiful daughter. Once, this miller had to go to the king, and in order to make himself more important, he said to the king, "Hey king, I have a daughter who can spin straw into gold." The king was odd, like, "Well, that's something very interesting to me. Why don't you bring your daughter tomorrow to the palace?" And so the next day, the miller brought his daughter to the palace. The king took her into a pool and locked her in. This room was full of straw, and he told her, "You have to spin all this straw into gold. If you don't, you shall die." He put her in the room and locked her. A few minutes later, the daughter started to weep. "I don't know what to do. How can my father think that this straw could be spun into gold?" So she sat down and started to cry. A few minutes later, suddenly the door opened, and a little man came in, ugly as hell. "Hey, Miss Miller, what would you give me if I spin all this straw into gold?" She looked around herself. "I can give you my necklace." "That's a fair bargain for me." So he sat down, took the spinning wheel, and started spinning all the straw into gold. He started all the evening into the night. So by the next morning, he had the full straw converted into gold. Of course, early morning, the king was standing there by the door, and when he saw the gold, he was amazed. But his heart continued to be greedy, and so he said, for a second time, "Hey, this is not enough. I will take you to another room even more bigger than the last one. And if you don't spin all that gold, you will also die." Poor girl didn't know what to do. Second time she was on the same place with a bigger bunch of straw and had to spin everything into gold. She sat down and again began to weep. "I don't know what to do." After she was locked, a few minutes later, the little man came in, ugly as hell. "Hey, mistress daughter, what would you give me if I spin all that straw again into gold?" She looked around herself. "My ring. I can give you my ring." And so the little man took the ring and again sat down on the spinning wheel and started to spin all the straw into gold once again all the night. By the next morning, absolutely of course, the king was standing there inside the room. He was amazed to see an even bigger bunch of gold. So this time he said, "You will spin one time the straw into gold for me. But this time, if you accomplish the task, I will make you my queen." I mean, she's a miller's daughter, but hey, she's the richest wife I could ever have, thought the king. So he took her to an even bigger room of straw and locked her in for a third time. The third time, the miller's daughter was waiting, hoping for the little man to come into the room. And of course, the little man opened the door and came into the room. "Beautiful miller's daughter, what would you give me this time if I spin that big bunch of straw for you?" "I don't have any jewels left." "Well, what can I do? I'll do anything if you spin every side into gold." "Promise me that you will give me the first child that you have." The miller's daughter stood. "What can I do? Well, I don't even know what will happen in the future. I don't know if I will become queen or not. So, yes, I will give you my first child." And so they agreed to that bargain. The little man sat again in the wheel and spun all that big bunch of straw into gold. By the next morning, the king was amazed. He had to keep his vow. So he married the daughter. A year passed by, and of course, the miller's daughter had a child. It was a very beautiful child, and she was so happy and completely forgot about the promise. But one day, and without notice, the little man appeared in her room. "Hello, Miss Queen. I came for my part of the bargain." She was amazed. She had completely forgotten about him. "Give it to me, the baby. No, I cannot. She was so afraid. You cannot take my baby from me. I'll give you anything else you want. Half of my kingdom. I'll tell the king to give you riches. No. A living baby is much more important to me than any other riches. The queen cried and pleaded and wept, and the little man was moved. And so he said, if you learn what is my name in 3 days, you can keep your baby. The queen stayed awake all that night, thinking about names, and she sent messengers all over that kingdom. The next morning, the little man came in and said, have you learned my name? She started saying, John, Harry, Richard. No, that's not my name. Every time would reply the little man. The next day, the little man came again. Have you learned my name? The queen started saying even other names. If your name Crookshanks, if your name Shabby Legs, if your name Wicklecombe. No, that's not my name. By the third morning, the queen didn't know what to do. But then a messenger returned, and he said, I went very far away, high in the mountain, and I came to a lone house in the forest. And then, in front of a small house, was a little man jumping around a fire and was singing, today I bake, tomorrow I brew, and no one will know that my name is Rumpelstilskin. The queen was amazed. Then came the little man. Have you learned my name? She said, is it possibly Harrison? No, that's not my name. And what about Rumpelstilskin? His face distorted in anger. It cannot be! It cannot be! The devil must have told you! The devil told you! And in all his anger, he put down his right leg and put into the earth. Then he put the other leg and he fell into the earth. And since that day, no one ever saw him again. To Toastmasters?
What did I tell you? The best of the best. Mr. Timekeeper, is Gaby eligible?
Yes.
Great. So I don't have to vote, don't waste paper. We now have a winner. Our next section is the evaluation. The speeches is the great section, is the pinnacle, but the evaluation is also very important for us to receive feedback of all the things we do. Not only about the speeches we receive evaluation or the table topics, but